1. I, at the time 19, was in Samoa visiting with my family and staying at my grandmother's house. The house was small and completely open. Each bedroom, 3 in total, you stepped out of automatically faced the living room, which was large. 2 large couches were up against one wall that faced the front door and a single-sized bed against the back wall. This is quite normal over there. Fitting any sort of sleeping arrangement for relatives. Samoans always have so many. If you enter the house, you automatically enter the living room, and to your left, you can see the open kitchen and a door that leads to the backyard. Along the wall, where the couches are windows that of a style that every Samoan house has, and various tropical plant species grow along the wall outside and around the house. These windows allow you to see everything inside, including the kitchen, except the bedrooms, of course. Earlier on in the day, my mother, aunties, and grandmother were sitting around the living room, talking in Samoan, and kept mentioning a word that made me curious, so I asked them to talk in English since I couldn't understand Samoan. 2 rapists were on the loose in our area, and that's about all I got when they reverted back to speaking in Samoan. I didn't think much about it, since it's typical of people there to gossip and over-exaggerate things. It's a simple life there, to the point of plain boredom, in my eyes. When night came, it was only my 2 youngest sisters, 13 and 15 years old, who slept in one room, my grandmother and auntie, who slept in another, and my mother, who slept in the 3rd bedroom. I slept outside in the living room on the single bed. I woke up in the middle of the night, unable to sleep, and lay in the dark, trying not to get freaked out by little sounds and the dogs outside barking, and sometimes howling. Eventually my mind wandered off, and I was about to fall back asleep, until I heard leaves crunch and sticks break outside the window. I thought it sounded like the dogs pacing along the wall outside, but then realized that I couldn't hear their usual panting and barking. It was eerily silent after that. There's this innate intuition you get when something is off, and at that time I had it, and desperately tried to ignore it by shutting my eyes so I could go back to sleep and pretend nothing was wrong. I heard another crunch of leaves and sticks. This time the sound was of them slowly breaking, and I knew then there was somebody lurking outside. I started to worry about the dogs, as I didn't hear any of them barking. A dim light from a phone suddenly illuminated the corner of the living room, where I was in my bed, and I shot up stunned. I don't know how many minutes went by with me sitting upright in my bed, until I saw the light again. It was clear that somebody was trying to peer inside. I instantly thought about protecting my family, and slowly got off my bed, trying hard not to make it creak. All options of what to do ran through my head. Obviously call the cops, but in the meantime waiting for them, what should I do? Stupid move to go outside to check. Stupid to turn on the lights when he could see everything inside. And I couldn't see anything outside. My grandmother is extremely sick, and my auntie and mother are in no shape to help if anything happens. I went to the kitchen, grabbing a large serrated knife, making sure that I made no sound, and went back to my bed to get my phone. The battery had died from me listening to music in the night, and I could not turn on the lights to find my charger or wait for it to charge. That whole time, leaves and fallen twigs were heard slowly crunching outside. I really hoped they had not poisoned our dogs. I went into the bedroom where my sisters were sleeping, and slowly took Jessie's, 15-year-old, phone off of her. Trying not to wake her, she ended up waking up, and was whispering her annoyance at me for trying to take her phone. I lied, and told her I needed her phone light to look for my charger, because if I turned on the living room light, it will disturb everybody's slumber. I went back to the living room, went under the bed and threw my blanket over me to cover the light from the phone. I was just about to dial the police when I saw that there was no service. We were all alone. I went into my grandmother's room to check on her and saw the man's phone light shining onto my grandmother. I rushed back to the living room soundlessly and peered from those windows because he wouldn't see me, but I would see him. The light from his phone illuminated his shape, and he was crouched down, still trying to peer into my grandmother's room. Behind me, the gravel outside of the entrance of the house crunched, and I turned around to see through the window that a figure slowly passed by. There were 2 men. By this point, I was more furious than scared, furious that somebody was trying to threaten the safety of my family. If I was by myself, I would have just been scared. I went into my sister's bedroom to peer out and see if I could get a better look at the other man. I saw that they had just rounded the corner of the house, but it was enough to see that he looked to be a young male, scrawny, and had no visible weapon on him. Guns aren't allowed in Samoa unless you had a permit. Only people with money had permits, which is very few in that country. I turned around to Jessie up in her bed and quickly hid the knife behind my back. She was whispering to me to give her phone back. I asked her if I could just listen to her music, just for that night, and tried to convince her to lend me her phone for the night, without telling her what was happening. She persisted her refusal, and that's when I decided to tell her what was going on, as I needed the light from her phone. And I needed her to be as quiet as possible. I saw the color drain from her face, and so much fear in her eyes. I instantly wished I never told her. It also solidified my choice in not waking up my mother, auntie, and grandmother. I assumed they would all just be frightened and probably start to panic, which is useless in this situation. I also didn't want the men outside to know that everybody inside were female, and that 3 of them were young and the other 3 were old. I paced around the house, keeping guard and watching the men, losing track of time but feeling like hours were going by. They both seemed young, teenagers to early 20s, and from their actions inexperienced. Probably rapists just starting out their career. I think they thought they had the element of surprise in assuming that everybody was asleep. They would find out soon that I had it. In Samoa, no one, especially teenagers, is out at that time of night unless they are up to mischief or something malicious. They were both near the windows, looking into the living room, crouched down and whispering to each other. I couldn't understand because it was in Samoan, but I didn't have to know they were formulating some sort of plan. An irrational rage engulfed me, and this is when my memory gets hazy from the rage, and when you obviously don't think straight. I remember zoning in on one of them, and stabbing through the fly screen with my large serrated knife, whilst saying in a low, infuriated voice, "You fucking cunts." I remember my knife glinting off the glass window shutters, and vaguely registered that I must have pressed a button on my sister's phone, which ultimately illuminated me, my knife, and the young men. Unfortunately, my knife wasn't long enough, and I missed. But from the light of my sister's phone, I saw that they were scared. I'm not sure how my rage warped me, or how the dim light made me in their eyes, but both of them ran off, leaving the sound of leaves and twigs breaking behind them. I stayed against the wall facing the windows above my couches, tightly holding my knife. I looked up at the clock on the wall. It was only 1 a.m. I was exhausted, but ended up staying awake until dawn, keeping guard until then. I kept constantly thinking about them to fuel my anger so that I could stay awake, be more alert, and think better without fear clouding my judgment. I felt anger was better than fear. If I ended up being scared, then I would end up just hiding, which was useless. Dawn was finally breaking, and I let myself try to get back to sleep. I must have dozed off and became half awake to the sound of some of my other relatives arriving and coming inside the house. Everybody there wakes up so early, 5 to 6 a.m. to go about their day. Everybody else was awake by now, whilst I was just finally getting some rest. My oldest sister, who came to the house with my other relatives, tried to wake me up. "Wake up, Danny. Wake up. You're so lazy, you're always sleeping." I was becoming grumpy from exhaustion and turned around to face the wall. I'm still in the living room, by the way. That's when my sister must have seen the large knife which was peeking out from my pillow. Just before I finally passed out, I heard her say, "Why do you have a knife under your pillow?" "Mom, Danny has a knife under her pillow. Mom!" I feel exhausted writing this and going back to that memory, but safe to say I did not meet those two again. I don't know if it was them, but I heard later on that 2 young men got caught when they broke into a girl's bedroom. The father chased them with a machete, and the police ended up catching them before the father could finish them off. Police ended up giving them a beating. Yes, if you do something shit, police over there will beat you before putting you in jail. 2. Let me give you some background on the situation. My name is John. I'm 16 at the time of the event, in the middle of my junior year. I'm from Asian descent and I'm nearsighted, which means I can't see far away, which is like a couple inches away from my face. It all started when I was in my homeroom. I'll call my teacher Mrs. H. Now, Mrs. H was a young woman in her 30s, but looked much older than she was. She taught history, and I have her second period. First period just ended, and I'm just getting into class. As I walk over to my seat, I see a skinny, black-haired kid sitting there. "Are you the new kid?" I asked. "Yeah, name's Kyle." "Cool, name's John." "I don't want to seem rude, but you're in my seat. Could you please move?" He gave me this face that a child makes when you don't give them what they want. He got up and sat in the seat behind me. He reeked of someone who hasn't showered in a while. I take my seat, and class begins. Mrs. H explains that there is a project we have to do, and it's on famous landmarks and their purpose. This was a partnered project, and lucky me, was paired with Kyle. I thought not only was this going to give me a bad grade, but it meant that he had to come over to my house, or I had to go over to his house. Obviously, I didn't want someone to come over to my house, nor did I wish to go anywhere for that matter. So I made a stupid decision and decided to give Kyle my phone number. Everything was alright for the first couple days. Nothing was creepy besides from the look he gave me a few days ago. Except for one afternoon, where me and him just finished writing. We both did 2 pages each, and we're going to pick out highlights from both of them and combine them together. This was a couple hours ago. My parents were out at dinner, and I was home alone playing some computer games, when I heard what sounded like glass shattering from the basement, which was odd because I was on the 2nd floor. Being the coward I am, I decided to pause my game and listen. Not sure what to expect, I sat listening for a good 5 minutes before resuming my game. Another minute goes by, and I can hear the door to the basement open. I don't have any pets besides from the cat I have, which was on my bed at the time. I mute my computer and turn off the monitor, grabbing my phone to dial 911. This was on a landline installed in my room, which was my dad's office for some time. I quickly told the operator the situation, and she had dispatched an officer. I hear silent footsteps up the stairs. It felt like forever, which was roughly 3 minutes. I hear sirens. I never felt so safe in my life. That was until my door slammed open. I couldn't see much, but only a mere silhouette of a figure. The sirens passed my window with enough light for me to see the face of Kyle. He doesn't notice me, but he hides in the closet parallel to me. I've never been so scared in my entire fucking life. His facial expression was the same from when I had told him to move out of my seat. It's roughly 30 seconds of utter darkness, besides some streetlights glaring in through the window. The door slams open, and a cop rushes, turns on the light, and asks me if I'm okay. I scream my fucking lungs out, trying to explain he's in the closet while sobbing. He opens the closet and gets attacked immediately. But luckily, he tases Kyle. I asked the cops why they arrived so fast, on only suspicion. And he told me that the operator said she heard another phone click after I hung up. I handed in the project a week later because I took some time off from school and stayed at my grandparents' house. I got an A. So Kyle, let's never meet again. Note, I had recently noticed my Facebook had a phone number and address on it. Needless to say, that's probably how he got my address, and without a doubt I took both of them off and set my profile to private. 3. This happened about 4 years ago, and I thought I would share it with you guys so you can give me your opinion. I apologize for bad grammar since English is not my first language. I was 15 at the time. Anyways, back to the story. I live in Croatia, on one of its many islands. The island I live on is fairly big, although it only has 3 little towns, and the biggest one has about 50 people. Most people have cottages, and come only during the summer. It's pretty lonely and deserted during all other seasons. 2 of the towns are located on the coast, and the third one, the one I live in, is just a 15-minute ride inland, surrounded by the evergreen forest. It's a really peaceful island, and I know basically everyone that lives there. Neighbors are really nice, and the life here is pretty boring and uneventful. I grew up here with only one friend, so naturally, I was really close to him. We basically did everything together. We enjoyed camping and fishing, and we would often camp out in the woods near our town. My parents knew it, and they didn't worry. Since there was absolutely no crime on the island and everybody knew each other. It was mid-spring and we decided to open our camping season. We packed our things as usual and headed on familiar path. After a few hundred meters we came across this fallen tree that was blocking the path. No big deal, I thought, since thunderstorms are really common on the island. We headed into the woods, not following any path. But I knew there should be a clearing a few dozen meters ahead. I knew the whole island like the back of my hand. Sure enough, a few minutes later we find the clearing and we started setting up the camp. I remember weather was beautiful that day, without a cloud in the sky. I raised the tent, while my friend was collecting the wood for the fire. We lit the fire, made ourselves dinner, and had a couple of beers. Maybe one too many. Night was peaceful. I only woke up once, and I don't really know why. I thought I heard a car engine, but I shrugged it off as imagination, as it was really late, and I was a little bit drunk. Next night, I woke up. I had to pee, so I got out of the tent when I noticed a strange dim light a couple hundred meters to the north. I thought nothing of it, and I went back to sleep. Next night, the same thing. I woke up, went to piss, and the same orange dim light was barely visible from the woods. Only this time it was a bit closer, and there was a strange flashing light too. I woke up my friend and showed him the light. He thought it's pretty weird because we're the only ones who ever visited these woods. We agreed we would check it out in the morning. I didn't get much sleep that night, since the light started to really bug me. The more I thought about it, the weirder it seemed. At dawn we headed out. We didn't bring anything with us since we expected to return shortly after. After 20 minutes of searching, we found something odd. We found an abandoned improvised campsite, made out of tarp and some rope. In front of it, there was a fireplace that was still smoking, and it radiated heat. Anyone who was here had a clear sight of our little clearing. One thing we found on this campsite was an open can of Red Bull and a USB stick. Whoever was here left in a hurry. I took the USB stick, and we went back. We camped out for 2 more days before heading home. We haven't seen the light since. When I got home, I forgot about everything until a few weeks later. I needed the bag for something, so I finally unpacked my stuff. Sure enough, among other things, I found that USB stick. I was curious, so I turned on my computer to check it out. To my absolute terror, there was only one folder on it, and it was named after me. Chills went down my spine, and I just stood there for a couple of minutes, staring at the screen. When I finally found enough courage, I clicked on the folder. The folder was filled with pictures. Pictures of me and my friend, and our camp, from my last 6 camping trips. I was terrified. One picture in particular stood out. It was a selfie of a man who was watching us. I didn't see that man ever before. And he didn't look creepy. He was in his late 20s, had a nice clean haircut, trimmed beard, and hunting clothes. I immediately called my parents, and we went to the police, with the first ferry since there was no police station on the island. I have told the police everything and gave them the USB stick. They said they will look into it. A few days later, I got a phone call from the police, and they said they don't know the man, and they can't do anything. They also said they will keep me posted for further info. I never saw or heard from that man again. To the creepy man, let's not meet. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 102. Okay, a quick update on where we are for the rest of the week. I'm still trying to get that Tinder video together, so cross all your fingers and toes, unless you're driving, in which case, look at the road. So hopefully that happens, we'll see. If not, I'll have a video up. I might just do True Scary Stories if I can't get that together, or something else. Or maybe I'll do 2 paranormal videos this week, who knows. I'm very fortunate, I've got quite a lot of stories for that this week. So, yeah. And I'm still working on the TIFU, but I think I should be okay with that. Yeah, I think I should be okay with that. And with those words, I'm going to leave you for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.